morning, viewers, and thank you for watching. This morning we have our regular panelists, Guy from Manchester. Hello, Guy.
Hello.
Don from Bristol. Hello, Don. And we also have a guest in the form of Andrew Edmondson, who I witnessed. I was actually there. I witnessed him being deplatformed by the West Sussex SACRE. Andrew, welcome.
Hi.
Tell us about it, please.
Well, can I just preface with what this is all about, collective worship, and a statement of the law, which is 1998 is the latest update, I believe, in which every pupil in attendance at a community, foundation, or voluntary school shall, which means must, on each school day, take part in an act of collective worship, and that means participate in worship in its traditional sense. And the problem is that this runs against the European Convention of Human Rights, which the UK co-authored and signed up to, and is bound by the European Court of Human Rights. And Article 9, which is the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Here's what it says: everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in private or public, to manifest his religion or belief in worship, teaching, practice, and observance. And so as far as forced worship of young children, for example, in schools, which takes place across the country, primary schools, Article 9 protects persons against religious indoctrination by the state, which is what it clearly is. As far as older children who have formed some beliefs, who might consider themselves atheists or their parents, to hold atheist beliefs implies obviously not worshipping. So if you're forced to worship, that is an infringement of your right to hold your belief. So what happened in 2019 was that parents Lee and Lizanne Harris won the right for non-religious assemblies, because assemblies are normally, morning assemblies are normally where religion takes place, religious worship takes place. And this was actually in Oxfordshire. Mr. and Mrs. Harris, they took with the help of Humanist UK, their legal team, took the Diocese of Oxfordshire to court, who then were forced to drop their case. And Mr. and Mrs. Harris said, "We're delighted that the school has backed down and agreed to provide our children with an alternative, inclusive assembly of equal educational worth." So in other words, they won the challenge. And therefore there's a legal precedent. And I'm a member of the West Sussex County Council Advisory Committee, which is called SACRE, Standing Advisory Council on Religious Education. I had to, with the help of Humanist UK, threaten legal action in order to become a full member. And as a member, I'm able to suggest items on the agenda of subsequent meetings. And so I raised the agenda item of collective worship, which I could see hadn't been discussed for years, if at all, on the council. And it was called agenda item 11. And as John Richards said previously, before the meeting began, I was taken aside 1 minute before the meeting was going to take place and told by Paul Wagstaff, the Director of Education and Skills, that they wouldn't be discussing agenda item 11 on collective worship because SACRE had nothing to do with collective worship. Anyway, that's... Wow. Yeah, that's right. And of course, one of the main aspects of SACRE, apart from writing the religious education syllabuses, is to advise on on collective worship. So I was prevented from actually reading out my little preamble to the discussion which I hoped would take place amongst these members of SACRE. And I haven't been able to read it to any of you, so this is a great opportunity to read. It's only one page, not very quick. And here it is. Following several discussions with members, that's members of SACRE, I realise that some of you greatly value collective worship and see it as a positive activity that benefits everyone. However, whilst I fully support your freedom to worship, I'm opposed to forcing others to, which is what the current guidelines advise schools to do. Freedom of religion and freedom from religion is a basic human right. This right is enjoyed by the religious members here, but denied the school children of West Sussex. Human rights are universal moral rights. As part of the agreed syllabus, SACRE advises schools on the teaching of morality, mutual respect, equality, social cohesion, and diversity. Promoting collective worship is clearly incompatible with these aspects of RE. Human rights are also legal rights. Indeed, the UK co-authored the European Convention of Human Rights and is bound by the European Court of Human Rights. Citing UK law and Department for Education guidelines in support of collective worship is merely an excuse. This is because UK laws concerning collective worship fail when challenged in the courts and because they are unenforceable. West Sussex County Council broke the same UK laws by appointing me as a full humanist member of SACRE. They did so to avoid being sued. The government will not prosecute West Sussex County Council or any school for failing to enforce collective worship because it is bound to fail in the courts. For SACRE to be a credible moral authority that schools can take seriously, it must distance itself from collective worship. This can be achieved in two ways. SACRE can advise West Sussex County Council to adopt guidelines for inclusive assemblies, and SACRE can release a public statement opposing collective worship. It's up to West Sussex County Council whether they wish to follow the advice of SACRE, of course. Your choice today is simple: support inclusive assemblies and human rights, or promote collective worship and oppose human rights. This is the most important issue that SACRE can consider. So I would like there to be a formal vote. This will give us the opportunity to discuss my proposed guidelines. It will also make clear to schools and the residents of West Sussex the position of SACRE on collective worship and human rights. I ask you to support my request for a formal vote. Well, that never took place, that little speech. And although, and at the beginning of the meeting, of course, they had to explain, the chair had to explain why they weren't going to discuss agenda item 11. And there followed about a 20-minute discussion on why we weren't going to discuss it, which I recorded and appears in a presentation I made, and you can see that on the Chester Humanist website.
Wow. Did you record it audio style?
Yes, I put my phone next to the next to the loudspeaker because since COVID, we've had joint online and live meetings, and so they've continued that practice, which is very useful for me because all of the audio comes through the loudspeakers on each person's desk. And so with absolute clarity, I managed to record the most bizarre set of statements and speeches you've heard.
Oh, that would be interesting listening indeed. Yes. But first of all, can we clear up a couple of points that some members of our audience may not be fully au fait with, which is, what is a SACRE? What do the letters stand for? It's an acronym, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education. It's basically a group of people and comprises 4 groups. So you've got your councillors and the members of the council, including their legal team and so on. The Director of Education and Skills, Paul Wagstaff, who's the current yes man. And then you have the teachers group, which includes unions and head teachers and so on. And then you have the Church of England, which, because of our constitution, has its own separate group. And then you have everyone else, all the other religious beliefs, and now me, the humanist, all lumped together in the religious group. They don't describe it as any other group apart from A, B, C, and D. And these people are not democratically voted. They're nominated and they're just approved by the council. And of course, I'm on there now, which is really a thorn in their side because any issue that concerns human rights, which is really why I'm there, I'm able to make a statement about them.
Yes, we'd probably like to hear another time, because we want to keep this short, but another time we'd like to hear about your battle to get on the SACRE, which also sounds interesting. But another point I'd like to have cleared up is that this collective worship has to be of, according to the law, which I think was 1944, 45, somewhere like that. Was it? Yeah. And according to the law, it should be of a Christian nature, unless the school has got some other faith designation. It should be every day, and it should be everybody. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Unless the school applies for what's called a determination and opts out, because, for example, it might be a Muslim school. Yeah. I'm not sure any school's ever done that, but it's a possibility. And unless the parents of a child decide that they want to unwisely withdraw their child from the morning assembly where it normally takes place, and virtually no parent would do that because of the obvious reasons, every child, every day, up until the age of 16, must participate, not just attend, participate in an act of collective worship.
Yes, that means join with the singing and the prayers, doesn't it? Yes.
Well, that's open to interpretation, but worship has its original and common meaning, and that's part of the law. But what happens is that the SACRE, the apologists for collective worship, will say, well, it doesn't mean this; it means it's something else, and you don't have to get on your hands and knees. We're not forcing children, but in actual fact, young children, of course, they say, okay, now children, let's play. And they all put their hands together. It's pure indoctrination for young children. Older children, even if their parents don't wish them to withdraw from assembly, they have no right until they reach the happy age of 16. And then they're still not going to withdraw themselves because they'll be seen as the odd one out.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, I certainly remember being subjected to that as a schoolboy many years ago myself, and I can remember the hymns that were inculcated into us from those days. But the fact of the matter is, most or many schools ignore this law. Isn't that the case?
Yes, especially secondary schools, because various reasons. It's technically difficult to get the whole school together. That's an assembly problem. That's separate. Yes. Collective worship and assemblies are separate. It's just that convenient that they happen at the same time. But in order to carry out collective worship, you need to find a teacher who's willing to do it. Yes. And as children get older, they become, as any parent will know, a bit more difficult to control. Primary schools, the head teacher calls the shots, and don't forget, head teachers are cognizant of the law. They don't want to be seen to be breaking the law, even though it's an unenforceable law because international law supervenes.
Yes.
But nevertheless, you're right. Virtually no school obeys the law exactly every single day, every child who's not withdrawn from collective worship. Yes. So that's true.
Has any school, have any attempts been made to prosecute a school for failing to comply?
No, and they wouldn't, because if anyone did that, it would then set another precedent, and that's what I'm calling for. I want parents, groups of parents, not individual parents, because that would be unfair on an individual parent or a couple of parents. I want groups of parents in a school that doesn't have collective worship or has it occasionally and is amenable. I want them to politely request that they don't have collective worship at all in their assemblies, at least. And most schools will accede to that. But if they don't, then Humanist UK is on hand and will simply cite the previous case I mentioned, Liz and Zan Harris, and no school is going to defend themselves in court.
No, Guy, you're also on a SACRE, aren't you? Have you got any comments to make about this?
Well, I'm very interested to hear this because I'm very newly on a SACRE. Actually, I've been a very active humanist for many, many years, but I've avoided being on a SACRE because I felt I couldn't do everything. But recently I have started doing, the last couple of years I've been doing more school speaking, and now I'm on this Rochdale SACRE. I would very much appreciate if you could send me a copy of your remarks and also of the case reference for the case, because I will see, look for an opportunity to do something similar in my SACRE.
Excellent. Yes.
Could you facilitate that for me, John?
Yes, sure. I have a copy, so I can scan it and send it to you. Don, you want to say?
Yes, could I just say that I'm also sitting on a SACRE, the North Somerset SACRE, and I would very much like a copy of these remarks.
Excellent. Great. Do you know what the situation is where you are, guys? Is there do the Islamic or Jewish schools in your area get close to following this law? Do they hold morning worship assemblies of everyone?
Well, I mean, I'm too recently on a SACRE to know very much, but I do know that Rochdale has got quite a significant Muslim population, and we are right next to Salford and Bury, which have got significant Jewish populations. And so I'll be looking out for that. And the school I'm going to actually on the 16th of February to do 2 assemblies for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. That one I think has quite a few Muslims in it. And the teacher who's organized me to do it is actually a Muslim, judging by his name. So we are definitely working in a what I would call a sort of multi-faith, multi-belief environment. And I think that the argument that worship should be of a Christian character is clearly going to ring true. But our point goes beyond that. We're saying that no child should have religion of any sort thrust upon them. Yeah. And I think that's an argument that it's time that we raised and fought.
Absolutely. Especially as the 2021 census revealed that we're 37% non-believers in England and Wales, and the 22 British Attitude Survey made the discovery that we're 52% non-believers. So the trend is obvious. We're going away from faiths, and this is an anachronistic law which needs to be repealed.
Yeah. I think the 52% is non-religious rather than non-believers, because I think quite a few non-religious people believe in all sorts of things, to be honest, that they don't regard as religions, but we might.
Yes.
Don, regarding the law, sorry, go on, Don.
Yes, in the North Somerset SACRE, it's a rural constituency, and it's there are not many people other than non-believers and Christians, so that's where the debate is here.
Yes, indeed. Andrew.
I was going to say, regarding the law and changing the law, it's very unfortunate. The Baroness, I can't remember her second name now. Anyway, so she recently raised the issue of collective worship with the House of Lords, and it looked like it was going to be passed on and become law, but members of the House of Lords decided against it. So it is, every time it is raised in law, it gets shot down. And it's quite unbelievable because there's no argument, there's no credible argument in its favor. All the arguments are against.
So I imagine the Lord Spiritual had something to do with shooting it down.
Yes, I was just going to ask that too.
Maybe.
Well, guys, thank you very much. I think we've thrashed that one close to death. And the course of action is pretty obvious to me, isn't it? What do you think? What should we do now to going forward? What should be our campaign?
Well, I think, as I mentioned, certainly in West Sussex, I'll be trying this, but it doesn't matter anywhere in England. Wales is a bit different because they've got slightly better guidelines than us. But I think what should happen is, firstly, from this meeting, what I'm going to do is contact all the SACREs. Whether it gets through to anyone who is able to make a decision, or the humanist member, I should be able to make. send separate copies of my case to other humanist members of SACRE, but certainly every SACRE should receive a copy of it. And then secondly, there must be some kind of effort to find schools and groups of parents who are willing to ask the school to stop this practice of collective worship, certainly in assemblies. And I think there must be many schools around the country. It's often not an issue because parents are unaware of it. Liz and Lee and Lizanne Harris, they weren't aware that their school were conducting collective worship. It was a community school. And then when they found out, they thought, my goodness, we don't want this. It's a community school. But of course, about 10% of parents don't have a choice. They have to send their children to religious schools. Yes. And so this applies equally to religious schools. Those schools are breaking human rights. Even the very existence of religious schools and religious admissions criteria are against human rights as well.
Definitely.
Yes. Well, we had another podcast a little while ago about transfer, because we've been contacted by a mother of children who went to the nearest school, happened to be Roman Catholic, and then found that they were trapped, and it was difficult for them to transfer to a community ethos secondary. But that was on another podcast. Perhaps I'll link it to this one in the details underneath. Guys, thank you very much. We've done a good job on that.
Yeah, can I just say one thing? I don't know. I think Humanist UK would be interested in this campaign, and I hope you're in touch with them.
Well, yes, Andrew is a key person. He's a West Sussex representative or Southeast representative. Tell us about it, Andrew.
Yeah. They are this year. They're having some kind of campaign. I don't know what it is yet, so they haven't revealed it yet. But I've sent them my details, and they're interested. And they really are interested. They published a set of guidelines for parents, about 3 or 4 pages. Any parents who are interested in pursuing this in their school, they've got a great set of guidelines. It's also in my presentation, a link to that. And they're ready and willing. And if a school does decide to have inclusive assemblies as a result of parental action, Humanist UK want to know about that so that they can then publicize it, and then there'll be a snowball effect. What will happen is it will suddenly happen across all schools, and then religious schools and academies, those independent academies, multi-academy trusts, they will be the last ones to fall, and free schools. But they're all going to go in the end. And this is the 21st century, and as John said, it's an increasingly irreligious country, and even people who profess to be religious, religion comes at the bottom of the scale of 10 priorities.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
As I said earlier, I'd like to have a copy of the remarks you read out. But I think it'd be a good idea if Humanist UK would send it to every SACRE representative.
Yeah,
definitely. And they do have that list on their books.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will do that, but they'll do it in their own way. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think I can promise that the Council of Atheism UK, will collaborate on this. It could be an opportunity to join together and campaign as one unit, especially now that we have Professor A.C. Grayling as our honorary president, and he's also on the list of sponsors of Humanism UK.
Yes, and of course he's going to speak to the Northern Atheists on the 10th of February. And we've already sold over 100 tickets.
Wow.
So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, he's a great speaker, isn't he? We had him down here at the Festival of Chichester, and an all-round good guy.
And people can get tickets for his appearance in Manchester from
Eventbrite.
And
Eventbrite.
just put in
Darwin Day or Grayling. Manchester. I can actually give you the link of by heart, but I'm not sure if that would make a lot of difference. Yeah.
Well, give it to me and I'll put it in the details underneath. Okay.
All right. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Right.
I'll text it to you in a minute. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Don. Cheers. And especially thank you, Andrew. Say bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Andrew. And good work.